Hello everybody and welcome back to our next part of the Captain Phasma helmet. Let's continue where we left off. Here we're going to try and create this inner plastic piece which holds the goggles. And this other little object on the cheek, I'm not exactly sure what it's meant to be, maybe some audio device. And here we're just going beyond the border, so we don't want the plastic piece just to stop right at the edge of the helmet, because it will look very fake. We want it to go in beyond, so it looks like it's attached and tucked in beyond the plastic. It's a mistake you do see quite often with 3D artists. We all try and cut corners, but like I've said before, you need to know where to cut corners, and it happens more than you think, where you see an object which suddenly stops right close to another object where it doesn't really intersect. There's all these small things which are perceptible, which really breaks the illusion. So here we're just mainly focusing on the border. And this was quite a bit difficult piece to get right, because it's very hard to know the shape in here, because it attaches around the goggles which follows the shape of the eye, but then you have the nose piece here, and that's a separate shape also. So you can see here the shape, it kind of dips in, and it was very difficult to try and work out how the shape was, or how it should be. And you can see here our references don't really match up. I think we said this in part 1 of the video. The front part is very much tilted forward, which doesn't help us at all. So here in it, we're winging it. We're trying to get what we think the shape of the eye would be. But the thing I find most frustrating with 3D is finding reference. I'm very much one, I want to make something as identical as I can, and finding references can be quite frustrating. I don't like the idea of just winging it, but sometimes you have to. If you look on my YouTube, there's a turntable of a Mini, and that was really fun to build. But one of the most difficult, most frustrating parts was the well, I guess in English you would call it the bonnet, but the hood of the Mini, when it swings down at the front. Finding any kind of reference for that actual swing was very, very difficult. If you look on a profile view, the side view of the car, the curve is hidden by the the wing of a car, so you're essentially guessing. And I've seen a few minis where people have made them in 3D, and that swing on the bonnet, on the hood, is something a lot of people do actually get wrong. And it's a very, very important part of the car. So here again we're just filling in what we think this should be. In a few minutes we're going to create this small audio device on the cheek, and that actually determines very much the shape, so we do come back and rebuild some of this cheek piece. But right now we're just kind of testing our way forward and seeing where things lead. You can see here also on the edge of the helmet there's still some very nasty shading issues. We have to come back and fix that. I'm still not super comfortable with the creasing workflow we're using here. And here we do a little inset just to help us out with geometry. It's very much like a puzzle, trying to get some good edge flow here. Here we don't need this border. This is very much of the idea where we create something first and then improve it later. This definitely needs improving. So we're still not completely happy here. Just trying to straighten things out, trying to smooth them, improve the geometry. So here we get a bit of a view of this small box on the side. I guess it's meant to be some kind of communication device. quite a simple shape. So here we're going to cut some holes into it. We could have maybe achieved this with texturing, but it's not so many geometries, and we're not really limited in vertices in this build. Like I said, this is just a vanity project, kind of. More of a test, not even a vanity project, it's just something fun. There is obviously always the idea in the future to edit this model and make it into a 3D printable. I did have a 3D printer, but I no longer have it, which is a shame because I actually do make quite a lot of things which are printable. Maybe it's something I'll invest again in the future. It's always fun to print your own objects. And here at the back we don't need any back faces because it will be attaching to the helmet. And again here we're just trying to fit this piece, and this is where you really get an idea of the helmet, how it kind of sits together. Needs to be smaller. So I think it should be lining up with the outside shell of the helmet, not necessarily with the nose. Which kind of makes me think that the nose is maybe slanting in a little bit too harshly. So yeah, no, this definitely needs to edge itself out a bit. Again, due to the lack of references, we're kind of just guessing here. We definitely can see that it's not as slanted. So here, definitely this nose needs to come out a little bit. And the easiest solution is to actually delete the solid parts of that nose and just actually adjust our mesh. And this is the good thing about using our guide mesh, because we can make these big adjustments now. And we can add the solidify modifier again later. It takes 30 seconds. But here you can see we really needed to get this nose part out again. So you can see how much difference it is here, and this is why again we need to redo this cheek. So you can see here how much sometimes, I mean, no matter how well you plan, things don't always necessarily work out as you want them to. It took a good hour into this build at least to actually realise that the nose plate was wrong. And I don't know, I mean, maybe it's something we could have done last, maybe. Certainly if I started to build this helmet again now, you do have a lot better idea how you would go about it. And this is not the first time I'm recording this, obviously. Each part I've maybe built 2 or 3 times before. I kind of practice runs and recording and then back and forward. I try to leave as much in to these videos as I can so you all can see the errors which do occur, because there is no scenario where you sit down and you build a model and everything just happens straight away, no problems. I don't know, maybe some people do that. I certainly don't. Building 3D models is a process. Obviously, if you had perfect references and you were just going from front, back and sides, then yeah, you could probably get an absolute perfect model straight off the bat. But here, where we're guessing, but we do get there in the end. We see here now we've got the right kind of form for this cheek piece, and the audio device sits nicely. And here we're just trying to get the right shapes, make sure there's no huge changes in shape here. This is the first time I've built a modern Star Wars helmet. No, I'm lying. I actually did make a Kylo Ren helmet. I've also made a original Stormtrooper helmet, which is why you'll probably see that not come up as a video. I don't like to do things more than once. That being said, this is a break from our bike tutorial series, the GT Performer, and I've been given some thoughts and considerations to what we could do as the next series of videos, because I like the idea of these long builds, and I'm kind of thinking about maybe doing a model which I've already built before, a very, very long time ago. I'm not gonna say what it is right now, but it's a model I pretty much, one of the very first things I built, and I've come such a long way, but I kind of feel like it would be really fun to build it and maybe texture it also. So maybe we can do a double header, a build and texture course, well, not course, series. In which case it will be texturing in Marmoset. So here we're adding our bevels. And the main job here is trying to fight against the pinching. Which does occur because this obviously is a square object, which then flows into a soft plastic object around the cheeks. And that's always a difficult transition. Here I think the issue is that we have a solidify modifier on the object, which I haven't realized yet. This is why I'm exploring the situation. And there you see, sweet, there you go, takeaway, good boy. And this weird shading issues in the circle here is just because we have overlapping bevel. So here you can see our pinching, which is not good. We need to soften the transition slightly. And this piece is going to be a fairly dull plastic colour, so it's not going to highlight the pinching too much, but we still should be able to reduce this. It's too much, I feel. Just adding some depth around the eye. So here I think the solution can be that we need to add a border around this device to restrict its influence. But first, so again, it's always important to do these, add the depth here. Obviously you're not going to see the plastic go that far in, but the inner edge will catch light, and there will be shadow there also, which are very important subtleties you need in in these objects, I think. It's all in the details. See, here we are still very much not happy with that pinching. The rest is starting to take shape. So here, shading around this edge is still very, very bad. You can see here. So we need to add a border, which I generally do always do from the very start. But here like I said, I was testing the crease workflow, which means I skipped adding borders and really kind of just went crazy with the geometry. So the lesson I have learned so far would be try to always add good geometry regardless, and then maybe try and lean on this crease workflow if you have to. I think the entirety of this build we could have gone with just good geometry. It's really that cutout on the temple which is the bit causing problems for us. So the border does help with the shading, definitely. Except for this one little piece. So that's definitely fixed things there. And here I'm also just playing with the strength of the crease. Still fairly unsure of how much strength we need on it. And I'm guessing the proximity of our edge loops, our support loops, also maybe affect the creases, I guess. There's definitely some pinching still up here in the corner. I know if we collapse the subdivision and add the shrink wrap, it will solve the problem, but I'm reluctant to reduce or increase the geometry at this point. I want to keep it relatively low poly. So it's not looking too bad even at the top here. But we definitely need to help ourselves out with some supporting loops. here is not looking so good, and it's pretty much because we've added geometry and we need to check what is in this shrink group. There you go, 2 points which are not being shrinked. I think we have some vertices which are in both groups, which is causing a problem. Essentially fighting against each other. And I don't like adding these just outside, but we have to get that corner sharp. So here again, now we're gonna try and add in some border, readjust. You can definitely see that these vertices are sticking too far out, which is causing the pinching. Again, just playing and molding around with the vertices here, trying to get a good result. And we're making progress. You can see here now the pinching is a lot less. And we can maybe relax these vertices also. Flattening that and relaxing seems to help us. Same here. So here we're going to try and generate the mesh by just stealing geometry, which we've already designated. It's the easiest option. So we're essentially just creating a flat plane in roughly the right shape. And then we will add a texture over this part. It will not be a physical geometry. Which, if you think about it, if we were to print this helmet. This is probably the way I would go also, because I'm not sure how, well, I mean, if you have a really good printer, it would look good, but I think you could also maybe just buy some kind of mesh, some like metallic mesh, just to kind of place in there. Will probably help you breathe. But yeah, I mean, if you can find any at a pinch, you could probably just build this with geometry, and you would probably use an array to get the effect. But again, because the mesh is like such an odd shape, it's a little bit hard. I think maybe geometry nodes. If you make a small hexagon and use geometry nodes to scatter them across the surface in a certain pattern. I can't say I've really used geometry nodes so much. From what I understand, I mean, there are some problems which definitely can be solved with geometry nodes. But they're very good for production. Maybe not as much for pieces of art. I'm not too sure. I mean, it's horses for courses. You need it when you need it. See, this is still trying to get a good shape here. It's not exactly what we want. And this is, again, a difficult part, because this mesh needs to attach to 3 different parts: the main helmet, the mask part, and the nose piece. So we're trying to make them fit all the pieces, but at the same time it's not, we don't want it to be too distorted. Here we're going to cheat a little bit and use the snap. So we're snapping to the main helmet, which really isn't working because we don't have any actual depth to the helmet. We've just extruded the edges. Here we need to space things out and kind of even out our geometry. Test to flatten it a little bit. So we're getting there. Now we have some leftover vertices here from God knows what. So not too bad. It's not the perfect piece. But again, we're not going to have any high reflective material on this, so we can get away with it a little bit. But it still bothers me that we cannot get a perfect fit here. So we're getting closer. And then we add the nose piece and realise we're off. So here I'm making a template just for this mesh piece because I feel we're not getting the right shape. It's too many different pieces we need to meet, which causes bad geometry, bad shading. So we're going to try another and see if we can find the right shape with the a guide mesh instead. Which theoretically should work, because if a nose is on a guide mesh, then we should be kind of okay. I definitely feel a lot of the issues here would be solved by good references. It's pretty much entirely this inner part which is causing us problems. So we just need to make sure this guide mesh misses all the vital parts. See, even now the nose piece is still slightly off. Because we initially so it's the second time we've moved the nose piece now in an attempt to find the shape. So now we're duplicating the mask geometry and simplifying by reducing some of the vertices. We're trying to get it a little bit more low poly, and the idea is that we're stealing this geometry and we'll build the goggle glass. Which is essentially a stroll in the park compared to what we're just doing. Here we have very defined geometry. We know where the edges of the mask is. The mask is a good shape. So all we need to do is extend beyond the borders here. And then we add some cross loops in the middle and just bulge them out a little bit so they're not so flat. We want a little bit of a bulge to these glasses. But we correct the geometry a little bit first, get some nice spacing here. So then we hide the borders so we don't affect it when we bulge out the inner part. Here we just scale out a little bit. Check our progress, see we get a nice little bulge here, maybe a little bit more. Make sure that it's not intersecting too much. So a fairly simple process there. It's probably the simplest thing we've done all day. And we've got a nice enough reflection from them also. So now we've got the mask where we want it to be. We can start adding the other side, the mirror. Maybe a little bit too much geometry here. You can collapse these edges. So we are approaching the end now. This is quite a long and complex model, to be fair. I've not made a single Star Wars helmet which hasn't been difficult, I can say. And it is, I mean, they are very much special helmets, but very much, when you look at some helmets in different kind of games, a lot of them are very hard surface mechanical. straight edges, but when you look at Star Wars helmets, they are very iconic and they're very smooth and kind of mimic the human face also. If you look at the original Stormtrooper helmets from the 70s, 80s, they do in a certain way look quite organic. You know, with the rounded tusks and especially at the very front, the mouth breathing apparatus on the original Stormtrooper helmets. They're difficult builds. So did not surprise me that this one became a lot more difficult also. And maybe we've learned a few things along the way. There's a lot of things I definitely would have done differently here. We would definitely, if we were going to build this again, and if there's anyone here who's attempting to build this helmet and try to take tips from this video, it would maybe be worth building the entire helmet and leaving the nose and the inner face until last, so you have a good idea of what shapes, because the whole of the shape was kind of defined by the nose because we took it maybe in the wrong order. Maybe. We always learn. So here now I'm gonna unwrap this, import into Marmoset, take a few hours to texture, and then import again into Blender. And here is the resulting turntable, which I think turned out quite nicely. It's always a little bit difficult to render chrome, but it's turned out quite nice, I think. So thanks for today. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next time.